Yes, yes. Test it. Sounds good. Okay. Welcome everybody. I think the last breakout session of this EFDN conference. Welcome by our presentation. My name is Luc de Riele. I am the CSR manager of NEC Nijmegen. We have some really good memories down here at NEC because last May we just got promoted to the Premier League against NEC and instead of NEC. So I think Hubert is less happy than I am, but it was good fun over here. I'm going to do the first part of the presentation. The second part is for Henri. Can you introduce yourself a bit?
Now?
Yes.
I will do it later on.
You do it later on? Perfect, perfect. The things we're going to talk about is the gap between regular and disabled football. We have created a special football partnership in Nijmegen, and in that partnership we have lots of things going on, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that. And I hope you walk away with some inspiration how you can do it at your own league or club or something else. So we have in our foundation, the NEC Foundation, here stands NEC Maatschappelijk. That's how we say that in Dutch. We have 4 labels, pillars. I saw it at Glasgow. You call pillars, we call labels, where we focus on. And one of them is NEC Moves, beweegt. It's standing over here, and the partnership we have. It's just fall down NEC beweegt. So we have Learn, that speaks for themselves, I guess. Fit, Works, and Helps. And Help is a bit of our charity label pillar. So we started in 2014 with a collaboration by letter of intent. With our local football clubs. So there was the local government of Nijmegen has asked us, can you do something between the gap of regular football and disabled football? And we said, no, well, we can create a team, but that doesn't make any sense to the gap there is. So they've asked us, and we say we go to the local football clubs around us. There's a smaller local football clubs around us, and we're gonna use the power of NEC to move the children or the people who want to football. So we used the stadium, the players, and the badge on the shirt. When we started with that, we had 4 clubs, as you see, in 2014. And after that, it grows. So Henri will show that later on. I will show that later on. But it grows because there were a lot of people who want to play football, but who can't play football in the regular base. So we see there was a market for that or something. So we had something like we need to create a self-leading organization around that. So we did the support. We set up a regional football league. So a league around the clubs, and we're supporting some activities. After that, after leading, coordinating, and facilitating, we hand over the participating teams in 2018. So we were involved at the background. So the clubs are doing it by themselves in 2018. And that was because it went too big for us alone. So we need them support. So that was quite good for us. And yeah, after that it starts growing more and more and more. So what we do now with the special football collaboration is. We ask them to come to the stadium to take some penalties in the rest of the match, We also fund them by some money to create some cool stuff for the guys. So that's what we do as well. And yeah, I think it's really important. The last one. So the league in Holland, the KNVB, doesn't. We don't join them, but they join us. So they are in our platform. They asking, how do you do something? How do you do? How do you arrange this? Or how do you arrange that? We tell them, but we don't participate in their competition. And Henry will tell you a little bit more later on. But that's an important one, because those children need some more advice, need some more helping in the competition that we create. So this is how it looks like. We have 200 players who participate. We have 3 leagues, self-regulation, and that's because we have different levels of it. So we have different kind of people, different levels. So in that way we can arrange for every children, every member of the league, their own level. So I think that's a good one. We have 9 clubs, 15 teams in that 9 clubs. Yeah, we have. Yeah, this is in Dutch, but NEC stays at the people, and football is for everyone. So I think that's an important one that we really like. That football is for everyone. I think that's an important one for us. And in total, we call that the special Premier League. Let's say special Premier League. We have 8 clubs who join us, who all give 1 player in the special Premier League for us. So that's a separate competition. We join them. All 8 clubs give 1 or 2 people who are joining us against other football clubs. And those football clubs are VVV Venlo, Ajax, that kind of clubs. So that's not local anymore, that's in Holland. So that's a little bit background information about the collaboration. Yeah, question. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We did train the trainers, so that's a way to support. But there's also a way to support in creating a tournament, creating a league. How do you do that? Arrange meetings for all those. So it's more coordination. So you coordinate more for those than that you really give the training by yourself. But we did train the trainer. Yeah. All, for trainers, but also for the players. So we create another project to give them some information how they can be assistant trainer. So that's for the players as well. Yeah. Any questions for so far? The stage is yours. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, one question. Yeah. Well, I understand. Yeah. It's your part,
Yeah,
isn't it?
fine.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
I will get back to that. Thank you very much. So my name is Henri Bakhuis. I'm a volunteer within one of the 9 participating clubs. I'm representing 4 of the 15 teams who are playing together around the area of Nijmegen. And out of that 9 participating clubs, we formed one special league team, 1 or 2 players from every club who participate as one in this special league team. And we go there by the NEC bus dressed in NEC clothing, etc. So that's why we participate as one. Yeah. So I'm representing one of the 9 teams. I'm also representing the Special League team since May of this year, both on a voluntary basis. I'm a volunteer in sport. I'm employed in transport, but then again, transport is a very nice sport also. So that's the connection. It's also very nice to be in Breda again. It's been 34 years ago. I started my transportation career here in the military logistics in the castle in the center of Breda, where the military academy is established. And now I'm back again 34 years later, also 34 kilos more weight. But that's because I'm not anymore in the military. I'm trying to tell you the story how we covered within the Nijmegen area the gap between disabled and regular football. And I'm doing this mainly by my own experiences, but on the other hand, all the other 8 clubs are doing a little bit the same because we work very closely together in the Nijmegen area with each other and we learn from each other. So first of all, where does football for disabled people start? Well, actually, it starts in 1985 in the Netherlands, in a place called Hellevoetsluis. But you can forget to get it. It's not in the end of the exam. It's not in the test. But it started in 1985, and it was called G football. And why was it called G football? Because in those days we had all football teams in ages, and the oldest youth was called A teams. Then the B teams, which is youth under 17, the C teams, which is youth under 15, and so on and so on. And you end with the youth under 9, was called the F teams. And then if you create a new group of football players, you call it G teams. Now the difficulty here is that G is very connected to gehandicapt, which means handicapped football. And although it was not meant to be, this is in the people's mind how it's set up. It's football for handicapped people. That's what people think. Even my friend Wikipedia says that G football is football for handicapped people, which is absolutely not true. If you look at Wikipedia, it also says that handicapped football has all got to do with people who are having a physical or a mental disability. And if you look at the group that we are working with in the daily practice, it's actually open for all football players of all ages. So not only for children, but also for youngsters or young adults with a physical, mental or social emotional disability. And there is mainly the gap that we experience between regular and disabled football. And why is that? If I look at my club, we have got 42 players with some kind of disability. And we work in 4 teams, as stated before, and they're in the age of 6 to 26 years old. But we've got multiple disabilities. And the main disability is the social emotional part, which means some kind of autism, some kind of disability with abbreviations with a lot of A's and H and D's in it, and all kinds of variances in it. And if you try to picture yourself as a youngster with a small disability, mild autism or a mild problem on your leg or your foot, you're going to a regular school or you're going to regular work and you are looking normal, but the only thing is that you don't function well in a big group with a lot of action, movement, only one coach available, etc. Then you cannot join a regular team because you won't function there. And this is the gap between regular and disabled football, because we try to fill that in on another way. Another problem is also the idea that people have about football for disabled people. So if you look at, if you're again this youngster and you're looking for a sport to do and you have got some mild forms of autism, and you think, well, maybe G football is something for me, and you go into the internet and you see this picture, then you will say, well, maybe football is not the right sport for me at this time. This is the booklet of the Dutch Football League, which contains the football rules, the G football rules, and which give you a total incorrect picture, because first of all, within G football or disabled football, we don't have linesmen. And not all people look like this. So 10 years later, the Dutch Football League presented another book, which is this one. And this is how it should look like. This looks like normal football. We just play normal football. We don't do anything different than regular football. But we do with people with a small disability. So that's the gap between regular and disabled football. And how do we bridge this gap? We do a lot of things with that. For instance, again, my club, we got 42 people with some kind of disability. 27 of them only social and emotional disability. We work with a lot of attention, 1-on-3. In average, for every 3 players, we have got 1 coach or trainer, in average. And indeed, on the bigger and more older groups, it's 1-on-5. And on the smaller groups where I work self as a trainer, sometimes it's 1-on-1. So we give them a lot of attention. We also have people who are, they're very much into football. They're very social from themselves. They're educated to working for this group. Myself, for instance, I went through the course being a G football trainer, and I also went through the course being a G football referee. So I know a little bit about it from a football perspective. But we also have trainers in our group who have a lot of knowledge from the target group itself, from all kinds of disabilities, what to do and what not to do. And in their daily practice, they work with these people also. So that's a good thing. And yeah, a main thing to stop bridging gap is stop calling it handicap football or things that look like that. In the Nijmegen area, within my club, we call it football plus. So we focus mainly on the plus of a player and not on the minus of a player. Some other teams call it special football. Some other teams call it the heroes of SC Bemmel. They call it heroes and all those kinds of wording, but try to prevent to have a big focus on disability. Then, since we work a lot together in the area of Nijmegen, and also for many years, you see the pictures or the logos of the clubs on the right hand corner. There was a need to establish some kind of core values. And how do we bring those core values in daily practice? Because from 4 clubs, we went to 15 teams nowadays. And if you get new trainers on board, or new players on board, or new parents on board, you should be able to tell them what our core values are and how we translate them into daily practice. So the main sentence here, the subtitle is that we just play regular football. And we play regular football as long as possible. And we only make it special when it needs to be. So we have normal players, normal ball, a normal goal, a normal referee, not some kind of a stupid parent, a normal referee. And only when it needs to be special, we interfere. For instance, just holding a player by its hand and helping him into the field. No problem at all. For instance, we have one team who always have 2 goalkeepers in the goal. 2 in one goal. Not on both sides of the field. 1 goal, 2 goalkeepers. Not a problem at all. But that's why it needs to be special at that point, because they're not very good goalkeepers and not that very flexible in movement. So put 2 in the goal and you have a little bit of a balance. Actually, within our core values, we have 3 rules, beside from the subtitle. The first one is we set fun above rules. The second one is we respect each other, possibilities and impossibilities. And the third is that team sport is meant to be for personal growth. And how do we translate that into daily practice? Well, in general, like I said, the basis is the regular football rules, and we only adjust them if it's needed due to the disability of one of the players. The second one, or the third one, doesn't matter. Every player has a moment of success. So every training, every match, every football moment, we make sure that every player has a moment of success. Not only by scoring a goal, also by creating a good pass, stopping an attack from the opponent, whatever. and then we complement the player. And the third one is, which is here in the middle, is very important to establish fun above rules, is that the coaches are connected. We talked about it based on our experience in the special league last weekend, and also last weekend here in Breda, where I received this medal on the Special Olympics League. The coaches should be connected, and what's meant by that? If you don't make an agreement on that, what you will see is that you have a big football field. One coach is with the reserve players on one hand, one coach on the other hand, and if something goes wrong in the field, there's no connection between the coaches. What we do always is that one of the coaches is on a meter or two distance from a coach from the other team. So you can talk to each other, and if something goes wrong in the field, you can interfere, but you also can say, well, maybe you should put an extra player in the field or 2 extra players in the field. Maybe I should put this player out of the field. So that's why we should be connected. Yeah, there's always the discussion, if the difference is too big, what kind of interference you should do. I'm not very fond of picking the best player out of the field and putting him on the bench. Why not? Because then the best player every match plays 5 minutes and then he's out. So I prefer a lot to have extra players on the other side in the field, or maybe even the coach being a defender on the other side. And for instance, last Saturday, with a difference of 4 goals, I start being a defender at the opponent's team, together with our trainer who went to win the goal. And then we managed to get 1 goal in the final second. So then the score was 4-1 and everybody was happy. Okay, the second line is respect each other, possibilities and impossibilities. First of all, the coaches should know their players. How do we do that in the Nijmegen area? After 1 or 2 or 3 test trainings, we visit the player at home together with their parents, and we talk about some specific topics which you should keep in mind when training this player. We don't try to set up a medical dossier because we don't care about that. Parents should be present if there are very urgent medical issues with a player, diabetic or whatever. Then the parents are always present near the field to interfere when necessary. We are not medics, but what we should know is what can happen in the field and how will this player then react. We call it in our intake form, we call it the risk of explosion. The risk of explosion. What should you do? What should you not do? Should you put an arm around the player, or maybe just don't do it and let him go? So that's very important for us. Coaching should always be possible, and we give each other feedback if we don't do that like that. We had a student who did an investigation within our Nijmegen area, within the teams, compared with regular football teams. And the conclusion was that within regular football teams, coaching is always for 80% based on things that go wrong. And within our group, 80% of coaching is based on things that go well. So we try to coach as possible, as positive as possible. And like I said, we give each other feedback, because if I fell into old behavior and give too much attention to the things that go wrong, then my colleague trainer will give me feedback afterwards, and I will learn from that again also. And what's very important is that this is also applicable in the fan zone. Family, brothers, sisters, grandparents, fathers, mothers, they're not always used to giving mainly positive feedback during a football match. Sometimes they even just behave like some NEC or N.E.C supporters. Sometimes they do. And what we do then as a trainers group, we also give these parents feedback how to behave and what we expect from them around the football area. And then finally, team sport is personal growth. We do this intake conversation. We document the specifics of a certain player, not only from his disability, but also from his level of football playing. And we say team sport is personal growth because we have a player tracking system, and there we put in all kinds of evaluations, which we do 3 times a year, and so that we can see if a player who's got problem with running maybe gets better in running during the year. who has got problems with coordination. Maybe his coordination get better or maybe even worse during the year. Both can happen. And what we do with this information is that we have a player and parents evaluation minimum once a year, but on an ad hoc basis if necessary, where we share this information again with the parents. Everything starts with the parents sharing information with us, but the things that we see on the field, we share it back to the parents so that they know how we see the evaluation of a player. And the final thing is that we also, especially for players in the autistic area, we also learn them how to cope with winning and losing. And winning is fine, losing is not fine, but you also should be able to cope with that. And you also should be able, immediately after the match, to thank your opponent. As normal, regular players on the television screen also do it. So you should also be able to do that. So this is our core values in daily practice. Does this work well in every match? No, it doesn't. But this is a discussion topic. 3 times a year we have a meeting with all coordinators and we discuss these topics again, how this works in daily practice, where we should put more attention on the table, where we should coach our trainers, coaches on the field more into, and we still keep up to this core values in daily practice, which we use now for 6 years, and we have some kind of thing to hold on and to keep it as nice as possible for everybody. So that's about the gap between regular and disabled football. And yeah, to close off with NEC line. Weer trekken wij ten strijde voor een betere maatschappij. Together we compete for a better society. And that is what we stand for. Any questions? Not. Thank you very much. A question. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
And I find it an interesting topic because also with disabled people you might have to, I don't know, because we had to tell you, we had weird things going on at our club with the management, and they were going off crazy in social media, and we didn't know what to do because they are Basel kids, but still they were going off like bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the problem, and of course our players also use social media, and their parents use social media. And in the intake conversation, we covered that it's allowed to use pictures or films within social media, as long as it's positive. So we do so. But then again, where does your responsibility end, and where does it start? And I learned that being a referee, that I always said, well, my responsibility is within the lines. And as long as something that happens outside the line doesn't interfere with what happened inside the line, I don't interfere either. That is what I do as a referee. But if then the coach or the fans are making that much of a noise that it's bothering the players into the field, then I will step into it. The same for our team. So parents, there's 1 or 2 who come by themselves, but 90% will be brought by parents and picked up by parents before and after the match, before and after the training. And that's where it starts and where it ends. So on the football field, we are in charge unless something happens on a medical basis with one of the players, then we call in the parents. But in general, on the football field, we are in charge. Parents are not there. They're keeping distance in the canteen or distance as really far away and don't interfere what is happening on the field. And after that, they're back to the parents. And yes, some of the older players, they have WhatsApp groups or are active on Facebook or whatever. And indeed, we might see something there that is not within our core values, then we need to step into that, but it's far away from us. We keep it also far away from us. Yeah, and if people cross that line, I can understand it's very difficult.
So it's just case to case.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know if I don't know what happens in. I think it probably happens at Rangers when it can't be our children, that there's a code of conduct.
Yeah.
You are a representative of your team, so if you have the privilege of representing Rangers, then that comes with responsibility. But I don't know how that can be articulated for very younger age groups and also through the special teams.
Yeah.
But it would be normal to, if you're making comments about something you're representative of.
Exactly. But like we do have a code of conduct as well, and it's different to the normal one we have, just because we think that they just learn differently. Some of them, we have the same thing. Like some of them are super intelligent as well, and some of them just don't really get things like that for us. But
Yeah.
you have to, I think you have to like teach differently.
Mhm.
And therefore, I think it's a good way to just like if you have a case, you have to talk to him or her and then see
Yeah.
how to go.
I guess it's not just like code of conduct, it's about online safety
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so it was
To
terrible
protect
in
young
Turkey.
people.
Yeah.
I think we would cover it, especially with this one, respect each other's possibilities and impossibilities. In addition to that, representing the club and the shirt you wear, we have a contract with NEC for this 12 players playing with NEC. You see them there on the picture, with this big guy in front, the bold one. Yeah, we expect behavior from them, a certain behavior, Luc.
Yeah, that's just how the normal players at our club, we expect that as well. So we say you're gonna sign the contract, and there it's in. It's in. So you have to act normal, be normal. You have to you wear the badge on your shirt. So that's the way how we told them. Be aware what you're doing online, outside the line. That's the way we try to do that.
Yeah. And our players take it very seriously, because in the contract also is something about eating and drinking. And then we had a tournament here in Breda, which took us from departure 7:45 in the morning, getting back at 1800 hours in the evening. And then during lunchtime, I asked one of the players, "Do you want to have a Coke?" He said, "No, it's my contract. I cannot drink Coke." So they take it very seriously. Another question.
Hello, my name is Ina. I'm from NEC Nijmegen. You have mentioned that you worked with mild disabilities.
Also.
Just small introduction. We also run regular training sessions for children with disabilities, and the majority of our participants are children with severe disabilities.
Yeah.
Most of them are in autism spectrum. And how do you, let's say, qualify or define that you can attract this child and this one you cannot because of, let's say, severe disabilities?
Yeah.
How to say no? Because
Yeah.
for us, I could say that it's a problem. No, it's an issue we are working with because, as I said, in majority of cases, we have children with severe disabilities, and we can't say no to the parents that
Mhm.
we can't
Mhm.
have them in our rules. But it means that we have no normal food because all these children they need special attention. And our football training session, it's not normal football. It's like football fun games and repeating
Mm. Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
exercises, what to do and how to qualify and define whom you can attract.
Yeah. What we do is we have some rules we check before you can play football with us, but that's mainly, are you able to move from yourself, or maybe even with this wrecking football thing, something like that. But you should be able to move from yourself, and you should be aware that you're playing a team sport with some kind of risks in it. But then again, the disability is not very important. And we try to figure out in 3 to 4 weeks of test training what the level is and in which team this person fits the most. And if it's necessary to coach one-on-one every week, then we will do so. And if it's possible to coach 1-on-5, then we will also do so. So we had a player starting with us when he was 10 years, I think, with severe autism. And if we have got 6 football fields, and if we train on field number 2, and if something happened on field 6, he was running over there and then running back to field number 2, number 3, and number 6, and number 5, and 1 hour long. So this one-on-one coach was running after him during 1 hour, getting fitter by fitter every week. So that's great. But nowadays, he has grown into the group in 4 or 5 years, and he doesn't run off the field anymore. So he learned that, and he stays with his own group. And he doesn't stay concentrated and focused for 1 hour. But hey, that doesn't matter for now. Maybe we see that in a few years. So yes, the good thing is that if you have 42 players like we have, you can differentiate. We also started with 5 players. 1 18 years old, 1 6 years old, 1 autism, 1 with a mobility issue. That doesn't fit very well together. And then to keep everybody challenged at the right level is very difficult. So the good thing now is, and the easy thing now is having 42 players, you can differentiate, and at every level you can challenge people to do their best within 1 hour and just go home and have a nice weekend.
But are there cases when you say no on tests?
Not yet. Some players do. We have autist players who stay at the side of the football field for 2 or 3 trainings and then put their first step on the football field. But we had some players who stood there for 3 trainings and then said, well, it's not for me. Going home. Fine. If not, then not.
Can I answer this question? I think the eligibility of some athletes and being eligible to play football or other sports, it's really depends on the coach and families. And sometimes families pushing really to do sport, some sports, and some sports are not good for that athlete. I mean, it's better for those athletes if they are, over 65 plus to play bocce or bowling than running football.
Yep.
Together with the youngsters. So it's better for this person and for others as well. That's the one the explanation. And sometimes parents need to understand that explanation and from the coaches after a couple of sessions. Perhaps it's better and healthier for everybody to switch to any
Yep.
other activities
Yep.
which are good for this person.
Yep.
And the second is eligibility. You ask about the different disability, severe disability or lighter forms of disability. I fully agree with the number of coaches to help. So that's the only solution I could see for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sure.
If you have 1-1, if needed, that's 1-1. If it's 1-3, it's okay. Sometimes you can play with a 1 for 10 players. So that's the 2 solutions that which I can see now.
And if not football, it's a pity, but there are many other sports, indeed, I agree.
Exactly.
I talked to a martial arts instructor and he said, well, your disabled players are the regular players in my team. So autism, etc. It's other sports, maybe judo, karate. They're very good for players like that who does not want to play football. I can understand it, but if somebody really doesn't want to play football, then it's not. Vicky,
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe there are more
Finished.
questions. It's time for
the next one.
yes, but first, thank you very much for the two of you for this very nice presentation, very nice topic, and for joining also last weekend, especially the topic.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.